Hi there, this is the second video response to Oh My God, It's Chris video on sex work. Again, I'm taking on the idea of stigmatization really, because as I said in the previous video, to do with morality. Even if sex work was legal, or at least decriminalised, there's a kind of burden of stigma attached to that kind of work, and whilst it might be an ambition of many of us really to take away that kind of stigma, I think it's probably easier said than done. In the last one I was talking about morality and the kind of stigmas which form around that. But I think there's also a second kind of stigma which is really important, and it comes out, it wasn't in any of the videos that I've made up to this point, I don't think, but it's certainly come out in a lot of the other videos, including the original video which was made, I think, but certainly in this most recent video you've made, Zomgits Chris. And it came out in some stuff that Scouse Casper was saying, and it came out in some of the comments, and in some of just the videos associated with this really. And it's to do with what kind of labour sex work is. If we were to imagine an ideal world in which prostitution was legal, and somehow the stigma was kind of magically wished away, what kind of sex work would it be? What kind of labour would it be? And judging by what people are saying, it's on a par with jobs like working in Macdonalds, possibly being a coal miner or a fireman, maybe, but probably more like working in Macdonalds. Others have compared it to working in a warehouse or stacking shelves in a supermarket. Quite a few people relate it to cleaning toilets or kind of bathroom, housemaid kind of activity, cleaning activity. All basically service industries, and moreover all basically unskilled labour. I mean that's the kind of parameters that's been put around this task. And I think one of the stigmas that's attached to it, even if the other kind of sexual morality stigma was taken away, is that there's a stigma, rightly or wrongly, and I think wrongly, but I wouldn't I, attached to unskilled manual labour. Just because there is a strong feeling that anyone could do it, and I think sex work does have that kind of thing about it. It does seem to have, from the outside, it does seem to have low barriers to entry. You have to have a certain kind of body and a certain kind of strength. But other than that, it doesn't require years of training. I'm sure there's more skills than I'm giving it credit for here. But that's the perception. It's a relatively easy trade to get into. So it's basically unskilled. It's like those other jobs that I mentioned. It's like a Mackie D job, or it's like stacking shelves or warehouse work, that kind of thing. Farm labourer. And I think that's quite odd in some ways, because I think quite apart from the stigma thing, and that is really important, quite apart from that, it does feel a little strange that we would want to argue the case for the rights of people to work in skilled manual labouring jobs. If we had our way and the ideal world was set up in which legalisation took place and destigmatisation took place, we're arguing for the rights of people to work as unskilled labourers. And that's kind of fine. I wouldn't want to legislate against that right, of course, but it is an odd right, particularly since many of us are not in that position. We're aspiring to different kinds of jobs. We're in the middle classes. We're not aspiring to that kind of a job. So there's something funny there, and also particularly since sex work is overwhelmingly work for women, and I'm not ignoring the fact that there are male sex workers for one moment, but it is predominantly women who work as prostitutes. We're arguing for the rights of women to take up more of the slack in terms of doing unskilled manual labour, service industry jobs than they're already doing. And we already know that women are overrepresented in those kind of jobs and underrepresented in the professions. So there's something, I'm a bit queasy about that. So I just think that out of that stigmatisation, in addition to the moral stigmatisation, there's also the stigma which is naturally attached to low-paid, unskilled labour. And do we really want more women to be in that kind of area of the marketplace? There is a kind of solution. I'm not sure it's a great solution, but one solution would be to, in addition to call for legalisation and destigmatisation, a call for kind of professionalism, a professionalisation of the industry. I mean, I know there are professional groups, there are groups who represent prostitutes, for example, but those are largely advocacy groups or groups or kind of political groups. They're not really professional organisations in the way that a guild or a trade union is an organisation. Not really, or not like a professional body is an organisation. And there's no training, for example. There's nothing to monitor not just the health and the welfare of prostitutes, but the professionalism, the training of those people who enter the industry, the quality control, the on-the-job training, the management, the whole delivery of that process. I mean, I can certainly imagine, whether I'm not sure I'd like the consequences, but I can certainly imagine a situation in which the industry is professionalised so that it becomes, you know, people study for 5 or 6 years to become a high-class prostitute. Or maybe the CPD, continuing professional development training for working women who could take 6 weeks out and do a short course in a particular practice, or a short course in erotic literature, or a short course in erotic art, or a short course in a particular kind of massage technique, or a short course in how to put a condom on with your mouth without gagging, whatever it may be. These all kinds of different short courses. I can certainly imagine a professionalisation of the industry with a concomitant raising of the esteem that the industry would have. I think if you did have to study for 6 years to become a top-class prostitute, esteem would follow you, and stigma, the kind of stigma which is attached to all kind of old unskilled labour that has low entry requirements, then that would start to shift. That would be quite interesting, I think, the professionalisation of it. So instead of calling for the right for women to work in an industry which is a bit like working for Macdonalds, it would be more like arguing for the rights of women to work in an industry which is more like being a brain surgeon, or more like being a rocket scientist. Now that's a kind of legalisation I could get behind. We have the right to be brain surgeons, we have the right to be top-class prostitutes. As I say, there's all kinds of other problems I'm sure would follow from that. But it just seems like a more valid argument to make for that kind of a legalisation than, as Anatole France said, the right for rich and poor people to all sleep under bridges, the right for us all to take, the right that anyone has to take an unskilled, low-paid, low-esteemed job with all of the stigma that's attached to those kinds of jobs. Anyway, thanks very much for that.